Here is our code that has 3 questions and the solutions of these 3 questions, the options. And the code is from our last video, so if you're not sure how this works, check that out. Now, if we run this, you can see that we have the 3 questions followed by A, B, C, D as the output. So we've used this lists inside a list, and we've used this for loop inside a for loop. And what we want to do now is we're going to take that output and we're going to put it in a text field and then get that from the text field into our Python program. So you can see here we're going to copy the text and we've got this text file. We can paste it in here. You can see it's exactly the same. The text file is going to be called quiz questions. We've used an underscore and it's a text file, .text. Save that, and that's our text file. There are a few ways of using files, and we're going to use one approach here. We've broken it up to explain each bit. Now, we can use open to open up a file. So we use the word open, and in brackets we have the file name. We have the comma. After the comma, we can have a letter to say what's going to happen. So R stands for read. If we wanted to put something into a text file or any file, we'd use W for write. Now, I'm just going to put these together. Now, once you open a file, it stays open. So if you want to tidy up your code, you should close it. One way to close it automatically is use with. So essentially, with opens up a file, and then once you come out of that code, then it closes automatically. Now, when you open a file, it creates something called a file handle. Don't really need to understand this, a bit confusing. If you want to go into more detail to understand file handles, please do so. But at the moment, we're not going to go in it. So we've got the file handle called F. So we've got with, we've opened up the file, we're reading in all the contents, we've got as F and then the colon. Now we've done for loops before, so we're going to use this F, and what we're going to do is that we're going to print each line in the file. Now you saw the text file, so you know what it looks like. So when we run this program, run this, you could see, oh, it's created some spaces in between here. What we can do with this is all strings. Everything that you get from a file will come in as a string, the same like input. Now, if we want to take things away from a text file, things that we might not want, so things like spaces, new line characters, etc., things that we don't see, for example, we can use something called strip. So we can do that with any type of text. So you can see here when we run this, now we've got the output that we want. So we now have the text file contents, and it looks great, but it's all one string. Remember, we had all of these in lists before. So how can we get from this one big string into lists? That's what we're going to do in this video. Okay, we're going to start with the list that we had previously, or the list we had in our previous code, and questions and solutions, because we want to put them in here. Now, how are we going to do this? Well, let's start by seeing what's on each line. So let's say count equals 1, and then I'm going to print count, and then make count equal count plus 1. So basically we start off with 1, and then for each line we're going to have the count number go 1, 2, 3, etc. So if we run this, you can see we've got 15 lines. Now you can see the questions are on 1, 6, 11. Okay, so if we wanted to put them into our questions, we don't want to put all of them, but we want to put the ones that, well, the questions in the file. So how are we going to do this? Now we know it's 1, 6 and 11, but what happens if we had 15 questions or 10 questions? So what we can see is that let's imagine that we've got a number, let's say a temporary number, and that equals count, but we want to say like count equals the remainder of a number. So what we can do is use modular. So modular 5 means it's the remainder once you divide by 5. Okay, so let's print temp now. Let's see what that does. So when we run it, you can look at the first number. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, because if you divide by 5, then that's the remainder. So we now see that when this temp equals 1, we want to put in a question. Okay, so let's say if temp equals 1, then to put that line into what we want, so we've got line strips, let's keep that. Line strip, we want to go into questions, so questions dot append. Okay, so hopefully, let's imagine, actually we can just leave that for now. Well, let's see if we've done that correctly. So afterwards we're going to do print questions. So if we run this, we can see we've got question 1, question 2, question 3 in the list, which is what we had in our previous code. So that's good. Now, what about these options? Now, if it doesn't equal 1, we could say our solutions dot append, and we've got line strip. So let's copy that and paste it, and now let's print solutions. Okay, let's run this, and you can see that it's just put all of the solutions into one list. What we actually want, we want the ABCD solutions in one list, and then a second list with ABCD and a third list with ABCD. So how are we going to do that? Well, we want to put the list inside solutions, and we don't want to put it in all the time. So what we really want to do is we want to wait until the temp variable is at 0, and then we want to put a whole list inside. So let's say we have our options, and we're going to make that into a list. It's an empty list. Okay, now if we have an elif temp equals 0, then we can append our options. Okay, so let's actually say if that's okay. So what we're going to do is, if temp equals 1, we put the questions inside the questions list, and then if we have our options, then they will go in our options list. So let's say append, and then we've got the line strip as well. perhaps what we can do is just give this a name to make it easier. So my list equals line strip, and then we can just put this as my, sorry, it should be my line, it would be easier to understand. My line. So we're going to put my line inside either the questions, if it's at 1, as we can see here, and if it's not at 1, we're going to put it inside options, and then if it's at 0, then we're going to put the options inside the solutions list. Okay, and we need to make sure that the options list is empty once we complete these 5 lines. So essentially we have a question, we have 4 options, and then we empty options. So let's have a look to see if this works. So we've got our questions here, and now we've got 3 lists inside a list. So let me go away and copy the code to see if our code works from before. And let's have a look. So let's comment these out. And remember, we had loops inside a loop. We can run this and you can see that this has worked correctly. If I just add an extra line, because this gives an empty line, so this print statement will give an empty line after the option D. You could see now that we've got our data from the text file, and with this additional code we've managed to put it inside our lists as we did before, and we can access them using the nested for loops to access our nested lists. Okay, so now we've got our files, our text in our files, we've brought in our files, and now we can run this. Okay, and we can see our questions. To finish the video, we've got an example of 15 questions. So we've done these quickly using AI, creating 15 questions. So let's say 15, and we've called the text file 15 questions. So let's run this, and you can see here we've got a whole quiz from question 1, question 2, with A, B, C, D, down to 15 questions. So we could create as many quizzes as we like, we can use as many questions as we like, as long as the text file has the same format that we've used here. So here is a 15 question quiz. So we're pretty much finished. What about the lifelines? Would you like to know about them? Maybe if you're interested, we can create another video looking at the lifelines. Okay, that's it for this video. Good luck with your coding.